Okay, well, it doesn't matter. I have to start anyway.
I'm going to let the public in now then. Here we go.
Okay.
Can everybody hear me? Is everybody good? Susan, Matthew, Melanie, Stephen, everybody's all good? Perfect.
Yes.
Wonderful.
And we have 2 public people.
It's nice to see Susan, like.
Here, and talk.
It's nice to see you, Susan. Wonderful. So yeah, let's see here. So we'll give it one more minute. Usually we start about 5:35, so we'll give it a second. We'll call the order. I don't know if we got anybody else on, but all right, Susan, go ahead and give your roll call, please.
District 1 is vacant. District 2 is Matthew. He's here. District.
Make sure he actually says present.
Oh, acknowledge Matthew.
Present.
Yeah, there you are. District 3, absent. District 4 is vacant. District 5 is absent, Jill. Lucia won't be here. District 6.
Present.
Up there you are, Steve. I'm here for District 7. Mayoral, Melanie.
Present.
And Mayoral, Phil.
Sure, yes. Thank you very much, Susan. Appreciate it. Let me get my agenda over here. Let's get this rolling. Let's see. We are going to. Did everybody get a chance to look at the agenda? All our members get a chance to see what's going on here. Yeah. Are any changes anyone would like to make? Anyone looking to add anything or removing any items? If that is, oh, you know what? I do want to add something. I do. I didn't see a spot for it. I don't think it's going to be a heavy part of it, but task force reports. I'd like to do that after the Brown Act presentation, just before we can do it with the member reports and committee, our comments, but I'd like to just kind of go over a few things with the task force. And that's about it.
I think Shelby wanted to say or have a couple minutes also during.
Thank you.
Okay, Shelby. Well, let's see where let's add Shelby after Scott. Is that sound okay? Before Jill goes into her whole rundown.
If we
or where does she need to be? Where does she need to be?
Can we put her pretty earlier in the agenda, and maybe not in the staff?
Yeah. Let's do it. You want to do it after the after Officer Belli? We can make that happen.
As early as we can for her.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's like unscheduled communications. This was an item that I should have put on the agenda, but I didn't, and so I just wasn't sure where it would fit in. But it's just for a grant.
Do you need? Well, I mean, the whole. Do you need more than 3 minutes?
No.
Do you need us to vote on anything, or?
I do need you to vote on it though, so that's where.
Yeah, so I would say let's just put you. Let me see. I'm looking at it right now. Schedule presentations. Yeah, I guess we could just do it right after unscheduled communications if you need it super early.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
Let's make that happen. So we have that there, right? Susan, you got that down?
Yes.
And then the task force, we can add that to later. Any other changes or comments or removals or anything else to the agenda? If nobody, if there is none, we'll need a motion to.
Where are you putting the task force reports? I'm sorry.
Just like right there with the member reports, like after the Brown Act presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Just right after that, before Matthew or before our member reports. So we need a motion to approve the agenda with the items added, with the added items.
I'll motion to approve the agenda.
That's Melanie's going to motion. Who second? Second is Stephen. Anyone opposed? All right, so we're going to go ahead and we got the agenda approved. Let's say that fast a few times. Next is the approval of the minutes from the last meeting. I took a look at it. Did everyone else take a look at it? I don't see anything that is really, I didn't see any errors, but obviously we need a second set of eyes. Did anyone else see anything wrong with the minutes from the last meeting? All right, well, we need a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Motion to approve.
Stephen, go ahead.
That
was
motion.
Matt.
Oh, who motioned to approve the minutes?
I did. Me.
Matt, I'll say Matthew. Who's seconding?
Steve, second.
Second, Steve. Okay. Anyone opposed to moving forward? No opposed though. So it's going to pass. 100%. 5-0. Next up, we have public comment on any of the agenda items. Did we receive any, Jill? Any public comment requests on the agenda items?
I did not get any written comments or written comments, but if we want to ask anybody, that's allowed. I think we can do it via the an answer box.
Yeah, if you have a question on it, we're gonna do public comments on agenda items first. So we'll do that first. So if you have a question or if you have a public comment on the agenda item, you can, I guess they put it in the chat box. Is that how it goes? And then we'll call on them, and you got 3 minutes.
Gavin, do we just answer them in the chat box, or can they talk?
Yeah, they talk, right?
They absolutely can talk. There's no chat box available to the participants, so there is no chat. There is a Q&A that you can answer either verbally to them or in writing, but there's also people with their hands up that we can allow to speak.
Okay, well, I think, okay, so right now we're doing public comments on agenda items. If you have a public comment on an agenda item, please raise your hand. And if we have anybody, please let us know.
And I'll just apologize ahead of time because I didn't realize I was just responding to people in the Q&A and chat. And I didn't know if there was a policy or procedure on that, on who should be answering those. And
yeah, we'll go over those for sure.
Okay, thanks.
We'll make sure, yeah. So do we have any hands up for public comment on the agenda items?
Yes, and just so you know, Phil, if you click on the participants icon at the bottom, you can see who has their hand up in the attendees list.
Oh, I see it. I see it.
They're listed by the order that they put their hands up. So typically for a council meeting, we start with the top and work our way down through the bottom, but it's completely up to you how you'd like me to let them speak.
No, that's fine. Well, we can start we can start with Tony.
Okay, here you go. Anthony, you're allowed to unmute yourself.
You got 3 minutes, Tony. Unmute you're still muted.
I did.
There you go. There you go.
Is it? It keeps flipping off.
You're good.
Okay, great. Okay, yeah, I thought it would be a good idea to since this is a new system, to try to figure out how to allow unscheduled public comments at the beginning of the meeting. So this is not an agenda item, but I wanted to just
hold on, Tony. We're gonna do agenda items first, and then we'll do unscheduled communication. We can come back to you. I don't know if Nick has unscheduled communication or not, as well, or if he has an actual comment on an agenda item. Nick, do you have a comment on an agenda item? Is Nick, can we
and for the public, they have to unmute themselves. There we go.
There he is. Go ahead, Nick.
I think this deviates to the Brown rules, because normally under the Brown Act, public comments are made when the agenda item comes up in the normal course of the agenda. So I think you're deviating from the Brown Act. I'm referring to page 8 on the when you go over the Brown Act in the next agenda item. Normally, public comments on it are taken when the agenda item comes up. I think you're deviating from the Brown Act.
Well, we can always switch around. But do you have a comment on an agenda item?
I have a comment on the agenda item, but it should be taken when that agenda item comes up. Because
okay, we'll come back to you on that one then, Nick. That's fine. Just let us know. I'll make sure to ask for agenda items at that point. And we're going to go over a lot of this stuff in our review, our yearly review.
Right. So I think the comments that we need to take right now are unscheduled communication things.
Okay, that's fine.
That are not on the agenda.
That's fine. John has his hand up. Tony, I encourage you to put your hand back up so we can get you on the unscheduled communications as well.
So Phil, am I up?
Yeah, you're up, John. You're up, John.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a quick report. I don't know if any of the folks on the call on this Zoom meeting were on my public meeting last night. It was actually hosted by Council Member Mike Kerbasi on the Western Access Plan that Fresno Building Healthy Communities putting together. It is to activate our Camp Bashan and also to look at putting our trail from Camp Bashan, which is right at Highway 99 in the river, along the river to the Melbourne Overlook. So this will be a public outreach community planning process. I think Matt was on there on the call. So it was a good meeting. We had a lot of community input. This is kind of a pre-public comment for the planning process, which they're applying for the grant for. So it's going to be about 1.5 years of planning. Fresno Building Health Communities has the same team that put together the work on Calwell Park. So architect firm and Sheila Himakapour is doing things. So should be a real good process. There'll be a lot of outreach. Mike Kerbasi is very interested in being part of all the CEQA work. We will be the CEQA lead, the San Joaquin River Conservancy, but yeah, it should be a good project. It's going to go to our board next week for approval. And we have a 2-step process. If our board approves it, it goes to the Wildlife Conservation Board, and then we'll fund it. I think it's well, if I remember right, it's a little over $1 million. I think it's $1.5 million planning process. So pretty good sized process, but they're going to do a lot of community outreach and do charrettes and everything else. So, and then they're going to do a CEQA document and do design to the CEQA level, about 60% design, I think it is. That's it.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it for that comment. Tony, you're up. We're back to you.
Thank you. Yes, I just wanted to mention that I had the pleasure of meeting with a number of the residents in the Bluffs regarding the Audubon Scenic Drive traffic issues, and appreciated meeting with Public Works staff. And so I had asked Matthew to give some follow-up on that on his member reports. I don't know. I was just kind of raised that to see if Matthew was going to be able to go into that in more detail. But I just wanted to mention that we had been meeting with a number of the local residents, and we had submitted some requests regarding some reconfigurations or modifications to allow pedestrian to be able to cross Audubon to get to the park, and to consider traffic calming measures. So I'm not sure. I haven't heard back yet from Councilmember Kerbasi or Public Works staff on that, but I would like to follow up on that. So I'll leave that to Matthew. Thank you for letting me raise that. Thanks.
Appreciate it, Tony. Thank you so much. And yeah, Matthew, if you want to obviously say something in your member report, if you like, or you have some time there.
Will do. We're moving on just right into member reports.
No. No, well, it's later on, but I'm saying you can address that if you'd like.
I will when, yeah.
When time comes, for sure.
Coming, yeah.
Any other people? I'm looking at it. I don't see anybody else's hands up, but we do have, anyone else like to make a unscheduled communication to committee members? Raise your hand. If not, we're going to head on to the next agenda item, which is the Cal Bike Central Valley's Bikeway Fresno report. And that is going to be
Shelby ahead. I thought.
I'm sorry. I didn't write it down. Sorry.
No problem.
Shelby, go ahead. Sorry,
Thank
Shelby.
you.
Thank you for letting me know.
Thank you. And I appreciate the accommodation. I got
Yeah.
2 little ones and 1 sick. So
Mhm.
I am going to share something real quick just to make it easier to describe. So we're applying for a Measure C Transit-Oriented Development Grant. And this grant, I think I've brought it before, maybe a few years ago to the commission, but what we're looking to do is to reconnect Merced Street downtown near Hotel Fresno. Oops. Let me scroll back there. And the reason for that is the grant really looks to invest in transit-oriented improvements so that folks can reasonably live, work, walk to public transit. And you'll see in this map here, what we're hoping to do is to reconnect Merced. Hotel Fresno is located here, and then we would reconnect Merced so that folks who live at Hotel Fresno, for those who don't know, it's being remodeled currently for affordable housing, would be more easily able to walk or bike to Congo Alley, up through Fulton, and then over to the Fax Transit Mall located at Courthouse Park. So the grant that we're requesting would give us construction funding to reconstruct the roadway and make a clear path to travel for vehicles, but also for bicycles and pedestrians. And the other high density housing downtown, there's some senior housing and housing for folks with disabilities. And so the Disability Advisory Commission was definitely in support of the project to help with wayfinding. And I just wanted to bring this before BPAC and see if you'd be willing to, 1, provide a letter of support, and 2, vote in support of the proposed project.
Shelby, I'm going to do you one better. I already received the letter from Carla,
Okay.
and I already signed it.
Well, I have some questions.
I'm going to be sending it in, but
Same.
I didn't
Happy to
realize
answer.
you were going to bring it up, and I was going to share it in my member report that I got it. So go ahead, Melanie.
I have some questions because that's my parking lot. And so that's the health department right there. And, we have a serious issue in general with county employees with parking downtown. It's terrible. And our parking lot is already impacted. We don't have enough parking spaces for everyone. So while I enthusiastically support connectivity and, a pedestrian, the people that live right there at Maston Towers and from the IRS, they walk across the parking lot all the time, and it's not necessarily a busy parking lot. So I guess my question is, what kind of, is it going to be like over, or are you just going to cut right through the parking lot, or what does that look like? Do you know yet? You might not know.
So
Okay.
No, we don't have final design. Let me see if I can, are you able to see this exhibit?
I can see the picture that you have of here of where the parking lot.
Okay. So I don't have final design to share. I did put in the grant that we would do some analysis for parking lot 2 and the parking impacts that would occur. There will be some reconfiguration, and I can email the project manager and just bring to their attention the impacts to county parking. You can technically walk through the parking lot currently, but there are fences and limited lighting, and the pathway is really, it's not an accessible path to travel.
Yeah, I mean, the parking lot's terrible. I mean, I will concur with that. It is a terrible parking lot. When it rains, half of the parking lot is unusable because it's a lake. And so it is terrible, but right now it's not been bad because of COVID. A lot of things are shut down. People aren't coming downtown, but when it was open to the public, we had very few spots, and it was hard to have people in there. But yeah, the folks at Messon Towers, they go through on their little, their
scooter,
electric scooters, and they go through. So again, I'm not opposed necessarily. I guess I'm just curious as to what it would look like and how that would impact parking there. Now, all that part that's underneath where it says Congo Alley, that whole parking area, I guess IRS has either taken it over or construction people are using it. So over half of this parking lot, over half of it, we can't even use. Everything past the IRS building is not usable. So we have this little tiny space to do parking in. So if maybe that other parking area could be opened up or something like that, that would be great. And then there'd be plenty of room to, to create the connectivity there for the Fresno hotel people. So we are excited about having Hotel Fresno being revamped too. It's going to do a lot of good for downtown. So we're not opposed to that either. Again, just how it's going to impact our parking situation. So thank you.
Yeah, I'll bring the item to the project manager's attention and see if maybe you would be a good contact to, since you're using the parking lot, maybe weigh in on some of the potential impacts.
So Shelby, I have the letter of support that I was going to go over in the member report today. But do we, Melody, do you want to, when do you guys need the letter of support by? Because usually there's a date, and I didn't see a date in the email that Carla needed it by. Is there a date?
Yeah, ideally Friday, if possible.
Okay. Oh yes, Friday. Is there a problem, Melanie? Do you want to see if possible? I don't know if we can get it by Friday, the finished part, or are you okay with us just sending the letter of support?
I think I'm not opposed to it because I think we can, submit the letter of support, submit the request, and then, should we get funded, we can just maybe talk about it more as the project continues. I would hope.
Yeah, we're funded for design funds right now, and they're going through that process. So right now is a good time to raise that question, and it's actually written into the scope to determine what to do with the parking lot and how to reconfigure things. And so, like I said, I'll email the project manager and see what type of community outreach and where they are at with the design. Okay. But this would be for construction funding, and it would be awarded later this year if successful.
Okay.
So
Sounds
I will, I guess we'll just put it up for a quick vote right now because we're all here. And usually sometimes when we get these, the quick turnaround, I just usually sign them and let everybody know what I did. But since everybody is here and we got up by Friday, we might as well just put up to a quick vote. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve the letter of support that I already have and regarding this project?
I wanted to ask a question real quick.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. So since I'm asking this only because it's like, hey, Hotel Fresno is right there, and this would be pedestrian pathway with lots of people crossing back and forth. But do you know if at all, I heard in the past that Hotel Fresno was planning on adding like a second building potentially behind it. Is that like, I'm only asking in case, I don't know.
I'm not familiar with any of those plans.
Okay, that's fine.
So I can't weigh in, but.
Anyway, that sounds good. I'll say this. I hope that we get a lot more people running the bus for the sake of the county health department parking lot, especially with free transit just recently being kind of approved for now. So anyway, I would like, if anyone else, unless any other members have any comment, I'd like to motion to approve the letter of support.
Anyone want a second?
I'll second.
Who's going to do it? Who's going to second?
I'll second it.
All right. Well, Susan will second it. Any discussion? Other discussion besides what already Melanie and Matthew had said. Any other discussion? All right. Anyone opposed? Okay, so I'll go ahead and sign it, and I'll get it out to you guys hopefully tomorrow.
Gene Richards here. I oppose it.
Okay. Gene is here. He's going to oppose, so that's you. Well, you got them.
Reason?
No. We don't need a reason. You don't need a reason.
Oh God, no.
You got the you got that. As long as we have it in the record, so that's fine.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. We'll get it over to you. We'll get it over to you.
Thank you.
I'll get it over to you right there. Now we can go over to the Cal Bike, Jared Sanchez with Cal Bike. Jared, are you on here?
Yeah, Gavin, so we have Jared Sanchez, Rosie, and Alexandra.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jared Sanchez. I'm a policy advocate at the California Bicycle Coalition, also known as CalBike. We're, if you're not familiar, we're a statewide policy and advocacy organization. Each year, we're a C3 and C4. So each year we sponsor legislation, which is a lot of the work I focus on, but then we also work on a variety of other aspects around education, communications, and this project, which is a bit of a planning project. And I'll just make it brief because it's not just myself with CalBike, but Alexandra and Rosie, who are going to be speaking soon, worked on this project the past 2 years. We received a grant from Caltrans Sustainable Communities Grant from the SB1 program that was in partnership with KernCog and Caltrans, of course, and the High Speed Rail Authority. And I guess the crux of this planning grant was to develop a plan within the Central Valley, anywhere as far as south is Bakersfield, up to Merced, to think about safe and protected bikeway networks and develop plans and supplement existing plans around developing protected bike lanes and other safe infrastructure. That's just kind of a larger view of the project, but there was also sub projects within that, including developing plans for a bike parking in Bakersfield, a walking/pedestrian plan in Bakersfield, a bike share plan in Bakersfield. And as you can tell, this grant was mostly focused on Bakersfield. But then other two aspects, we worked on this report in Fresno and then also Merced as well. And so to really sum up the grant is to develop bikeways in alignment with High Speed Rail Authority and the proposed stations and sites and all of the locations surrounding it, and make sure that there's connected bikeways throughout, specifically focusing on disadvantaged communities, low income, marginalized populations who often face some of the most unsafe biking conditions across the state and in Central Valley. So that's, I would say, the crux of the project. And I know we're limited on time. And the real stars who led this project, specifically in Fresno, are Alexandra and Rosie, who I know are unmuted and will be speaking next. And I'll pass it to them, who have a short presentation to get more detail into this plan before you. And the last thing is thank you. I didn't thank you for allowing us to speak to the space and present this plan. And I will mention it's a draft, so we're accepting, of course, comments, and there will be an editing process after. So I'll transition there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Rosie or Alexandra, I'm not sure which one goes next.
I think they need to be able to share their screen, Gavin.
Okay.
Yeah, who has the presentation that needs to share the screen?
I do, Alexandra.
Alexandra, okay.
Yeah.
You should be able to unmute yourself, Alexandria, and share your screen.
Oh, wow, I've been promoted to host. How exciting. Okay, let's get this rolling. Right. How does that look?
Excellent.
Great. All right, so as Jared said, with that very, very kind introduction, I'm Alexandra with my dear colleague Rosie, and we just wanted to talk to you tonight. We both are part of the California Bicycle Coalition, and this summer we really focused our efforts on bringing accessibility to areas in the Central Valley, so particularly Bakersfield, Fresno, and Merced. And we want to do this through biking, and obviously this is in conjunction a little bit with, or quite a bit with the high-speed rail station and how we can use that as a central point to then increase connectivity and accessibility for the city as a whole.
Okay, yeah, so this plan in particular is focused on building a low-stress bicycle network within 3 miles of the proposed high-speed rail station. For those who aren't familiar, low-stress bike infrastructure is bike infrastructure that is comfortable for people who are interested but concerned in biking, which is most people. And then a low stress bike network means that everything is connected. So this is the definition, providing routes between origins and destinations that do not require cyclists to use links that exceed their tolerance for traffic stress and that do not involve an undue level of detour. So basically, the focus is on having, rather than just like disconnected bicycle routes, to have a whole network that connects to each other. And this is really done through having a lot of different routes, but then also having low stress intersections so that the entire community is connected as a whole.
All right, so let's talk about existing conditions and planned routes. So these are how things are today in Fresno, as well as what is planned and accepted in the most recent active transportation plan. So I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with a walk score or a bike score, but it essentially tells you how many destinations you can reach by walking or biking from either where you live or where you work. So we partnered with People for Bikes, came up with this wonderful tool to essentially determine how many things you can access from one place in the city. It really is a tool to demonstrate connectivity. And the score is 0, which means very little to no connectivity, to 100, which is 42nd Street in Manhattan. And so the idea that we want to show with this map is the green areas, the dark green areas are the ones that seem to be, and when the ATP comes to complete fruition, are very well connected areas. Whereas the lighter green and gray areas are the ones that we wanted to focus our efforts on connecting into this rich network that is existing or planned. The little blue rectangle, gosh, my shapes, right in the middle of the city is the high-speed rail station. So again, we wanted to use that as sort of the center and realize that the High-Speed Rail Authority has made an effort and a statement that transit should connect to that. So by using that as a central point, we can then say, how can biking connect to transit and to, therefore, many other parts of the city.
So we did some public outreach to see what residents of Fresno wanted. Because of COVID-19, the majority of these were surveys. And the survey was open from July to October 2020. We worked with Cultiva la Salud to distribute the surveys, and we got 220 responses. So these are just a few of the things that are highlighted, but we got information on for people's perceptions of biking and walking in the project area, their travel routines, and what they need to make a safe and pleasant travel. We also looked at top destinations and barriers, and as you could see, these are the barriers to destinations. They're really concentrated in the middle and around the high-speed rail station and the downtown area, which is not surprising because that's where a lot of people are concentrating and trying to go. But we do also have a bunch of barriers in this location, including railroads and highways. So we really were looking at how to increase connectivity across these barriers.
So what we took from those findings were essentially, where are the parts in the city that need to be connected? And the way that this BNA People for Bikes tool works is that it's based on street connectivity only for low stress connections. So what we found is in quite a few instances, it was the freeway blocking essentially one side of the city from the other, or a canal, or something of that sort, an incredibly busy road. And so what we've done is tried to propose, and again, we're so welcome to comments and we want to hear what you have to say, to propose a certain number of routes that are mostly running east-west. A lot of that is because there is a possibility for, when the high-speed rail is built, to include a bike path actually along or near that route, along an old railroad line. And we are trying to essentially make more connections to those low stress existing or planned areas that will then increase connectivity and get that dark green color, that 80 to 100 bike score into more parts of Fresno. And so we particularly focused on around the high-speed rail area, making sure that the southwest side has access to transit, has access to that downtown on a low stress network, which is really important. And the other things we did was just making sure that you could get across the 99 with a low stress connection, whether that's a tunnel or a bridge. And so these are a few of our routes. We have a much more detailed plan that we will definitely share. But we obviously would love your feedback on these.
And this just shows the low stress travel shed of the adopted network, which again means the existing routes as well as the ones that have been approved in the ATP, and the low stress travel shed, which includes those routes as well as our proposed network. So as you can see, it really extends the network farther out. And that's basically it. So we, I think, are happy to take questions now.
I got to unmute myself. I don't want to do anything. I wanted to thank you for the presentation. I really appreciate it. Does any members have any questions about the presentation?
Okay, my question is, okay, if back on the so on the map that you showed, at least of like the low stress routes you were recommending based on your analysis, I noticed that Clinton doesn't go west of the railroad tracks. As far as I know, there's maybe like bike lanes planned, at least for the ATP west of there. Was there any particular reason that you think either maybe like the model or anything else like that has didn't extend the low stress route past the railroad tracks? Because I'm only saying that because it's I work as a surveyor when I'm not here with Metro Ministry, and I'm knocking on doors all through that neighborhood, and it's so many cars, so noisy, and it is crazy how wide the road is and compared to how narrow the sidewalk is. And it's to me, it's a really high stress area that needs a lot of traffic calming. And for me as a bike, I'm wondering why in your analysis, the route didn't go west of the railroad tracks on Clinton, where it's also really busy.
Jared or Rosie, do you want to take that, or do you want me to do it?
Might be most familiar with this, Alexandra, so you might.
Okay. Thank you, Matthew, for that question. I think that is a really valid point. So when we were designing this project, and this is totally the point, is that we took a lot of community feedback, but also I think it shows to actually see what the route would look like. So that is the edge of our travel shed. So you can see Clinton was kind of the northern border with that highlighted area. And because there is a Rails to Trails project, bike lane, connecting that that railroad. So when you're talking about west of the railroad tracks, there are other bike lanes planned for Clinton Avenue. We wanted to make sure that east of the railroad tracks was connected to this, I mean, what ends up being like an incredibly rich bike network because of, you know, the potential Rails to Trails project along that. So that was the idea of stopping it. And because there are other, maybe not entirely low stress routes west of the tracks, but there are routes planned in the ATP. But that's definitely a completely valid ask, and we can look more into that and get back to you.
Okay. Last thing I'll add is, okay, because the current ATP, which was done in 2017, has like the, well, this isn't more of a question, it's more of a point I'm just making, because the previous ATP said that that was going to be like a Rails to Trails project. The only issue is that, like, in the past, it was sometime last year where I believe the committee that was like doing the rail consolidation project that would have allowed the Rails to Trails thing to happen came out and said that, I would need to look at the news story again, but essentially it sounded like rail consolidation wasn't happening, and therefore it was like the funding that was in Measure C that was going to go towards like rail consolidation in general was just going to be like used on an overcrossing for McKinley and Blackstone for the rails around there. And so I think maybe if, I'm just saying that if like maybe it would make sense in my mind to have the, when we do actually, like, if the city were ever to do anything on Clinton extended west, so it connects to Maroa right there, since it makes sense to me. I don't know. Anyway.
Thank you, Matthew. Anyone else have any other members have any comment for CalBike?
I guess I was just curious in looking on the map, and you have the orange lines to, you know, increase connectivity. So what is that exactly? Does that represent? Does that represent, you know, more bike lanes, pavement? What is, does it depend on what the location is? And does your grant, is your grant just funding, your grant was just funding, I think, the planning, right? So we would have to apply for funds or include that somehow in our ATP to actually get those things done. Is that it?
Yes.
Yeah, I can answer
short
the
answer.
latter part of that question, but maybe you can help me, Alexandra, with the first part, which you know more detail on. Yeah, definitely. This is only a planning grant. We were speaking to the High Speed Rail Authority early on, and you know, there's a lot of plans, and I sense you know, a lot of frustration around continuing to develop plans. So the last part of the report, I believe, lays out a budget, and yeah, helps to at least assist you all with seeking, supplementing ATP, and then finding the funds and of course implementing it. But yes, this is definitely just a plan, which is a very important piece, of course. But as I said, and as Alexandra said, and thank you, Matthew, for your questions, all the feedback is welcome. I wrote notes, so I don't know if this is an issue that Tony brought up earlier, but we're definitely taking all this feedback and appreciate more. So I'll stop there. And Alexandra, I don't know if you can answer the first part.
Sure. So the orange lines that essentially were on that map that we talked about, the proposed network, CalBike has focused on promoting not just bike lanes, but actually low stress biking environments. So that can mean something different on every road. On a residential street, you know, that might be enough to be considered low stress. If there's, you know, it's a narrow street and there are trees, but on, you know, a 4-lane road, a striped bike lane is just not enough. And frankly, you know, it's incredibly stressful for cyclists. If any of you are cycling around Fresno, you know this. And I think we as a team have put together the idea that the minimum for most of these plans is a buffered bike lane. If not, we're really moving toward that complete street model, which obviously is more expensive, but it definitely centers that pedestrian cyclist person moving about the city rather than the car. And so Melanie, it is different for every project. And just to kind of go back to Matthew's point as well, and Jared's, we think the biggest thing you can gain from this proposal is seeing those maps and where the lack of connectivity is. Those original maps that we sort of ran with the current ATP. And that proposed network is something that, we give a preliminary budget and discuss a little bit about, what these routes would prove. But it's really kind of the starting point for everyone in Fresno to use as a tool to, promote within the community and ask questions. So yes.
Thank you, Alexandra. Appreciate it. Anyone else, any members have any questions for the CalBike team?
I would like to just real quick interject that we're getting lots of stuff in the chat right now, and I feel like maybe people who are usually here and more talkative from the public feel like they're not getting heard that well. No offense. I know the public comment part's coming up. It's just, I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
I never thought I would say this, but I think maybe just for now, it'd be a good idea maybe to not have Zoom and to switch back to the Cisco WebEx, only because I don't know, it's a smaller meeting.
It's a smaller meeting. We not even halfway through the agenda items, and it's almost 6:30. So we want to make sure we're getting through this as well. So
anyway,
any other comments on the presentation before we go to the one hand raised in the public for their 3 minutes? All right, we can go to Nick first. You got 3 minutes, Nick. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, Nick.
Okay. Okay. I will not go into too many details in the interest of my 3 minutes. First of all, I want to pick up a point Matthew made regarding the railroad consolidation. And Matthew's right. Railroad consolidation is dead as a doornail. That's not going to happen in anybody's lifetime. So that corridor that you're banking on is definitely dead. Number two, the City of Fresno has submitted a grant application to get funds to update the current after transportation plan. So I think we should regard this draft study, because I seem to recall early in your presentation, you used the word draft. And I think some of the comments made during this question and answer period leave the impression this could best be regarded as a draft. Take this as educated outsiders' recommendations, as draft proposals, recommendations. Ask the city public works department staff to look at it as input to the update to the next City of Fresno active transportation plan, as something to be considered. There are some projects in place on some of those streets. There's bike lanes in some of those streets. I'm thinking of Church Avenue. There's some projects going on Martin Luther King. There's some bike lanes on Ventura. So there are things going on. And so I think, once again, I had a chance to very briefly look at the study that was appended to the agenda item. That had some, 5 recommendations that went beyond just those 5 lines or 9 lines on a map. And one of those things, the last one, caused me serious heartburn that I'd like to object to at this time, asking that the general plan be updated to bring the street design and standards into alignment with the best practices in NAPCO. Well, I would certainly like to vehemently object to that, because I think what's in the general plan right now does not go into the level of detail that NACTO goes into And I don't think the general plan should go into that kind of level of detail. That level of detail should be left with these public works standard plans and drawings, because best practices do change over time. So I think the study should be received by the BPAC, passed to the public works staff, perhaps to review and use as input to the next active transportation plan. Thank you very much for the indulgence.
Thank you so much, Nick. Next one will go to Peggy. Peggy's up. 3 minutes, Peggy. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Peggy Arnest. I work at Fresno Council of Governments. I was a part of this project at the very beginning. I was one of the stakeholders, but I seem to have been taken off the email list. I would like to get back on because I would like to make comments on this plan. I would like Alexandria and Rosie's emails because I do have some comments I'd like to make. Is that possible?
Yeah, can you put those, are we able to put those in the chat box so you guys can put your email addresses in the chat box? Is that possible?
There's actually a Q&A question asked for that. So if one of the panelists could answer that in the Q&A, everybody on the attendees would get that answer.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Gavin.
Can I?
Go.
Just to respond quickly to Peggy. Peggy, thank you for your comment, and I have your email address, and I'll contact you directly, and I'll talk further about your feedback and whatever else you'd like to discuss. So I'll reach out directly. Thank you.
All right, we'll go to Laura. Laura's next. 3 minutes, Laura.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for letting me speak, Phil.
You're welcome.
I also, first of all, it would be, I would love to be informed a little bit more about this project, and it's a little bit hard to get feedback without reviewing the maps a little bit more in detail. We've been reaching out to the community in Southwest Fresno for over a year. And I'm curious about some of the suggestions that you have there in your plan. The community has been trying to really get people to pay attention to Martin Luther King and California, which is a very unsafe corner crossing. And I was wondering if you are aware of that and how that would be addressed. And I was also wondering, you talked about working with Cultiva la Salud. Are there any other organizations that you worked with to reach out to the community? Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's okay if I respond, right?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, great. Thank you, Laura, for your question. So I'll handle that latter part, and then Alexandria, I am not familiar with that first part, so you may not be as well, but I'll hand it off to you. The short answer is no. There was no other partners we worked with. Cultiva La Salud was our primary partner. We originally had in the community outreach plan a far broader scope of what we were thinking. Due to COVID and the pandemic, it certainly changed a lot. So not only did we have to pare down, but we also pared down the larger scope of it as well. So that's a quick answer, is that Cultiva was our main resource. And it is unfortunate that we didn't have, more time and I think longer project period to do more detail type of community feedback. So thank you for that comment. And then Alexandra.
Sure. So the Southwest Corridor, Martin Luther King Boulevard, is seen as one of the priority routes that we are planning, or that we had proposed, simply because, as you mentioned, it is a rather dangerous street. There is not a safe bike lane available. Also, there are quite a few schools and facilities along that route that could really benefit from having a bike lane, from having that access that can then lead closer to downtown. So that is one of the proposed routes. And that is something that is, I guess, not good to hear, but we hope that a route like this could somehow increase access to a particular community, as well as provide, safe routes to schools. And also, when we propose these bike routes, we include the intersection changes and intersection safety to basically include the best practices for how an intersection should be based on pedestrian and cyclist qualifications.
Thank you, Alexandra. Before we wrap up here to our next item, is there anything that Cal Bike you guys need from us at this time?
I think more feedback. I do want to be transparent though at this point. Our grant is officially ending very, very soon. Again, KernCog is the lead agency that was handling most of that administrative work. So I will say there's very limited time about how much we can incorporate, but definitely, and given the interesting comments, and I know there's already been some back and forth between Nick and Tony and others, I think we do have some time to address that and to support you all in all the great work that you're, of course, wanting to do. So yeah, so at this point, thank you again for allowing us to present and get it before you and to really, get a strong kind of, I guess.
I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys' presentation and bringing that to us. And I'm sure you'll get a lot of feedback from a lot of the members here and a lot of those in the public as well. So thank you for your time, and you guys enjoy the rest of your evening.
All right. Thank you.
So we've come to the part where we all have looked forward to, which is our review of I think of the Brown Act, right? Our rules that we have to go over here. So was everybody able to get print out a copy or download the copy of what we're about to go over to on the Brown Act and everything like that, all the members? If not, I can always share my screen on the PDF. I thought it was a PowerPoint, but it was a PDF that got sent over to us.
Is it a PDF? I have a PowerPoint if you want me to do the PowerPoint.
Yeah, if you want to do the PowerPoint, that's fine. Yeah, I had you sent over, what was attached to the agenda was a PDF. So I think you might have sent the PowerPoint at some point. I don't have it right now. So if you can do that, that would be great.
Yep, let me find it.
Sure. So I'm going to time myself. I'm going to see how much we can get through 15 minutes. I know, Jill, that you at the very end of the meeting, you wanted to talk about the new, what was it? The new, the social media part of this. So do you want to do that at the end, like towards the end of this one, before we take any comments from the members? You want to just incorporate it here since we're in here? Okay.
We can.
So
let me see. Let me make sure I'm getting this here for you.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good.
Is that it?
That's it right there. That's exactly it. Now, I didn't have an opportunity to change the date on this. So you'll see it's from our last, probably the last time we did this, which was in July 4th, 2019. But we do have some new members since then. And I think everybody needs to, this is a good review that we need to do, especially when we do have a few new members here. So buckle up. Anyhow, so let's go over this. And I don't know how the PowerPoint goes, Jill. So just give me the whole full screen and we'll go over it as fast as we can, but as succinct as we can before we go to the next slide. So at the very beginning, you'll see this is the Brown Act for the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. What is an advisory committee? What it is I'm gonna have to move my screen here. Representing community interests, overarching advocacy, reviewing trends, data, policies, procedures, formulating position statements, providing input on best practices. What is it not? Representing personal interest, individual advocacy, individual grievance reporting, managing programs, providing direct operational oversight. And then you can, all members can go, and the member of the public can go to the City of Fresno. You can either copy this link, you can click on the link on the PDF. It'll take you to the handbook for what we're all about to go over as well. So that's I have the physical copy of it. I don't know how new it is. I don't know when the last time they updated that handbook, because the handbook that I have was 2014, I think. 2004. Hold on one second. It's from 2004, the last one that I have. So I don't know if there's a newer one than that, but that's what we have. Next slide. Go ahead. Okay. Fair political practices. A purpose to prohibit a public officer from participating in a decision that will impact his or her economic interests. Financial reporting from the Political Reform Act. We just did ethics training. I believe that's what we just did. If I'm incorrect, we did AB 1, 2, 3, 4, and we'll talk about what else that we have to do as well. You can find all this information on the FPPC website for the state of California. So the Brown Act, the basics of the Brown Act. Basic rule: meetings of legislative bodies must be open and public. That is the government code right there. The purpose is to facilitate public participation, curb misuse of democratic process by secret legislation by public bodies. BPAC is subject to the Brown Act because we are advisory committee. Meetings must be conducted in open public sessions, and agendas must be posted in advance. The agenda posting rules, this is mostly for Jill because I believe she's the one that does this, but we should all know the agenda must be posted at least 72 hours in advance, 24 hours in advance of a special meeting, which we don't do much here, but if we did, we'd have to post it 24 hours in advance. Specify a time and place and a general description of each item. The content of the agenda, here are the rules. The agenda must provide public comment period to address each item on the agenda, an unscheduled public comment period, and that is any matter within the jurisdiction of the committee not on the agenda. Now, we don't actually vote on anything. We don't, we can have a little bit of discourse, but it's not really for that purpose. It's just so the public can comment on what we do if they see something in the public as well. So next one, there you go. Meeting discussions, I should say. Board cannot discuss or take action on any item not appearing on the agenda. There are some narrow exceptions. Briefly responding to comments made by a private person during public comment period, asking staff for clarification, directing staff to place item on future agenda, making brief announcement regarding members' own activities. Information shared in the meetings. Equally available at same time to the public. This is information, documents, reports given to committees. Those are the things that Jill puts links to on the agenda PDF. No requirement for reports to be prepared prior to a meeting though. Public rights. So this is very important. Open to all. Not required to register to attend. Can be asked to give name and address to comment, but not required. That's something that we don't do here in this meeting. Right to videotape or record meeting if it doesn't create a persistent disruption. Decorum. Everything is public record. You are a representative of the council member, and we have talked about this in the past before, that you sit on this committee as at will of the the mayor or the council member that appointed you. So your behavior or whatever your decorum in the meeting is reflective on them, as well as what you do outside this this body as well. Meeting types. There's regular meetings, special meetings, that's as needed, quote unquote, basis for special purposes. Emergency meetings are called on less than 24 hours 24 hours notice. I think this is just an example of that at the very bottom. Go ahead, Joe. So this is the definition of a meeting. Any congregation of a majority of the members of the board at the same time and place to hear, discuss, or deliberate upon any item that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board or the local agency to which it pertains. No need for board to take action for a gathering to be a meeting. So just an example, if we are outside of this body and we end up, so Susan and I went to a press conference for the Zero Fair, right, Susan? We were there. Had Melanie showed up, had Matthew showed up, and had Steve showed up, we would technically be holding a meeting. And we couldn't discuss anything. We have to make sure that you know, that technically doesn't happen, that we're not all in the same place discussing anything that we are subject here in the committee. Types of serial meetings. Did I miss? Oh, I did miss this slide. Or I should say serial meetings are prohibited, involve less than a quorum, result in a collective concurrence without formal meeting. Types of serial meeting. Chain of direct communications, emails being forwarded. Now this is very important because I know we all like to, we all get sometimes a meeting or some discussion or some type of topic that is forwarded to all of us or sent to all of us. We cannot be forwarding that to each other. We can email each other, but that's, I don't even know if actually that's even proper. But there can't be discussion on that, on those serial meetings. A series of communications between individual decision makers and a third party. That's a type of serial meeting as well. Gatherings, not meetings. Individual contact. Conversation between committee member, not polling members. Conference, public meetings, social or ceremonial events. Members cannot discuss specific business among themselves. So again, if we all had met at the Zero Fair Act public the press conference, we couldn't really discuss anything on there. We could say hi to each other and how our day, but that's pretty much it. Are we on closed sessions? Yeah, that's what I thought. Closed sessions. We don't do a lot of these, but here's a good example. Narrowly limited to discussion on pending litigation, employee performance, labor negotiations, and real estate negotiations. We must report on actions taken in closed session. We don't really do any of this because we don't have that type of overall power. And I think that this is a good time to have Jill talk about the social media aspect that was passed in September of last year, right? On Robert's rule or on the Brown Act, right?
Yeah, let me find it here real quick. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at what was included in the agenda. It was, is this it? AB Assembly Bill 992 is the social media requirements for legislative bodies. And it's basically adding on to the presentation that Phil just gave, how you are to conduct yourself on social media with other members of BPAC. You could read through this. This is the opinion that I got from our city attorney's office. Tony Molina actually reached out and asked if we had been given any direction. I had not. I honestly didn't even know that it was a bill. And so I did reach out, and they drafted this letter for us to know how we are to conduct ourselves on social media. And basically it's right here, there's no thumb, you're really not supposed to be doing thumbs up or thumbs down or liking or engaging in chat on, say, Facebook or Twitter or
yeah, the top of that one, if you notice, guys, in the very top, it says right there, in relation to the Ralph M. Brown Act amends government code, it's on internet-based social media platforms, to prohibit members of a legislative body from communicating with other members on internet-based social media platforms, including commenting on, answering, responding to, liking, etc. posts by other members. However, AB 992 permits communication on social media by a member of legislative body to the public. So we're not really supposed to be doing stuff on our, we might be friends on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, but we're, it says we're not supposed to be really engaging with each other on those platforms. However, we can engage with the public. That's what we can do. So it says right there in the bottom, in summary, a member of a legislative body is prohibited from using an internet social media platform to address matters within the subject matter jurisdiction of the legislative body in the following ways: no direct response to an item made, post, or shared by another member, no comments on a communication of another member, no use of digital icons that express reactions on a communication of another member, communications to the public. A member of a legislative body is permitted to engage in conversations or communications on an internet-based social media platform to address matters within the subject matter of the legislative body in order to interact with the public. Permitted interaction with the public includes answering questions, providing information, and soliciting information with the public. So are there any questions on this part or the entire presentation that just took place, especially for those who are new to the body and who have never seen this before?
Could that be emailed to us so we can read it a little more thoroughly?
Yeah, I can email. It's also in the link on the agenda. If you click on the agenda link, it should
on the Brown Act one.
No, on
the very bottom. It was the last one in the agenda, Melanie. If you go down to the bottom of the agenda.
Okay.
I figured we might as well just throw it in here because we were already talking about it. And I think everybody can get the PDF of the presentation that we just went over. Just so if you're not really sure about what we should be doing, what should we not be doing, you can always clarify with yourselves. And hopefully next time we do this, I can change the PowerPoint, or Jill can update the PowerPoint with the date.
Okay.
So we have it. Go ahead, Matthew.
Quick clarification. So on a post, I shared the meeting and everything to my Twitter, and someone replies, "Reconnect Merced and Broadway Street." What I'm getting from what you're saying is that I essentially should not be liking that.
No. What it's saying is that you can interact with the public on matters that we do here. So anything that we do in this body that is relevant to this body, you can comment on the public. Just like at the very bottom it says. What it's saying is that you and I, Melanie, whoever, we're all on, we're all whether we're friends on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, just don't interact with us. Don't like, don't comment.
So Phil shouldn't like that.
I shouldn't like that. Correct. I shouldn't like that. I shouldn't like that post.
All right.
I shouldn't even comment. I shouldn't even comment on the post.
Okay.
So it's not for us and the public. It's for us between ourselves.
Okay. Good. So essentially, I should not be retweeting your give me 1,000 retweet posts.
Correct. Yes, exactly. You should not be doing any of that stuff. Absolutely. And I know a lot of us, I think a couple of us on here are friends on Facebook and stuff like that. It doesn't say we can't be. It just says that we probably shouldn't interact with each other on there. Obviously, we don't want to message each other as well. So
I wanted to follow up and see if we got clarification on Nick's comment, because as I'm looking at the presentation under the slide, the slide numbers fell off. So under where it says agenda content rules, it says agenda must provide public comment period to address each item on the agenda. It doesn't say when that takes place.
correct,
So-
and that's what you know, when I was looking at the agenda, I just kind of threw it on there, and actually I looked on the agenda right now, and it does say, I believe the first page does say unscheduled communication / public comment. So we can do it in the same place. Now, I guess it's up to us whether we want to do it on the agenda item or not. Do we want to do it at the same time as the unscheduled communications, or do we want to do it when we're actually doing the agenda item? So, you know, I don't know. I think we would need the city attorney to clarify that for us, the office. So Jill, if you want to ask, like, when is the best time to do public comment? Not the unscheduled, because that's easy. We can do that in the front. But the actual public comments on the agenda items, when is the best time for us to make that happen?
Nick has his hand up.
Speak of the, yeah. Any other member comments before we go to the?
I'll say this. I think it's pretty obvious to me that we should just allow people from the public to comment when an item is up, pretty much, mainly because, I mean, it would make sense to have them on unscheduled in case, like, they can't be here for the whole meeting, but people are sometimes going to be able to think of certain questions when the presenters are presenting something, and they might say something that's not in the packet they post on the agenda before the meeting happens. So
Correct. And I know that there is a place when Jill puts out the agenda to make a public comment before the actual meeting on an agenda item, right? And then we can take comments at that same time as well. We just got to get clarification from the city attorney's office on when can we do that? Is it up to us, or is there an actual, like, do we have to, in order to be in compliance, to make sure that, you know, is there a certain specific time? But no, I totally understand, because that just makes sense. Like, if we're talking about something, then and if you have a question and the public wants to say something for like 3 minutes, you know, it seems like that just should happen. But I just want to make sure we clarify that before.
And I will check with the city attorney's office, but I do think that during other meetings like city council and whatnot, your agenda item's not till later in the day, or it hasn't been heard and I have to leave, I think there is the opportunity that they can comment at the beginning and on the agenda item for unscheduled communication. But I will check that.
Okay. Thank you, Jill. We'll go to Nick. Nick? Is Nick available?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay, I certainly agree with Matthew. It makes more sense for the person who's presenting the item, where it be the staff or a member or a guest like Jerry Sanchez, to make a presentation, and then the public to comment at that time after they've heard the presentation, rather than make their comment at the very beginning when they don't know what the presentation might be. So I would certainly opt, to go that route.
Yeah, and I'm not opposed to that. I just want to make sure we're in compliance with the city attorney's office. If we have leeway, then we can do it whatever we want to do it. Anything else, Nick?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. John.
Yes, Phil, we run our board meetings under the Brown Act, and we have the Attorney General's office attend, our lawyers, so we do have legal advice on this. But you guys are kind of coming down on where it's at. We always do our staff presentation. We have discussion with our board members, and then we open it up to public comment, and then we close the public comment, and the board members can have final discussion after they've heard public comment before they make any vote on anything. But it is like you guys are all saying, it's real hard to make a comment on a presentation until you see the presentation. So
yeah, no, I totally agree. And if we can figure that out, the sooner we figure it out, the better that we can make a decision on if we need to switch the agenda around a little bit.
Yeah, but we also do have an unscheduled. So at the beginning of our meeting, if somebody wants to talk to us about something that's not on the agenda, they can do that.
Yeah.
Or at that time, they can talk to us something on the agenda if they have to leave early, and we just try to remember what it was. So we give them that flexibility, and it seems like with our attorney, that's fine. You can do it that way, but we have been told when we present an item, we needed to open it up for public comment before the vote is taken, if there's a vote. And you guys don't always do it. Takes sometimes.
Correct. We don't. Yeah, exactly. If we're not voting on anything, you know that, and that's I guess maybe that's the big thing. If we're not voting, if it's just a presentation, like you can make if the presentation is attached to the agenda before, we're not holding any if we're not holding any votes, you know, it really, you know, it's not, we don't really need to hear from the public per se, because we're not voting on anything. We can hear from them at a different time, but you know, again, it's all about what we can do and what we're supposed to do. So thank you, John.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Laura.
Hi. Yeah, I appreciate John's comment. I would be curious as to the difference between the Thanyakin River Conservancy Board and the BPAC Advisory Board. I think they are a little bit different in the scope of their work. And I was also curious concerning interaction between BPAC members and the public. Does that include anything that is on the agenda of BPAC that BPAC members cannot talk to the public about? Or are BPAC members just not allowed to talk to people from the public that are concerned about issues that are getting addressed by this body?
No, we can. So like Matthew had said, we can interact with the public. Like, I mean, you can call Matthew, you can text him, whatever, you know, whatever that needs to happen. You know, the interaction between the public and the members, fine. What we were saying is between us as members, there is a limited amount of discussion that we can have together. So whether it's, you know, you and Matthew talking after the meeting, that's fine. That's totally okay. You know, there is no limit on that. But if we got off this meeting and me and Melanie and Steve decided to have a conversation, no, that's not allowed. We can't make that happen. Any other comments or questions about the Brown Act and the new stuff?
So Phil, just for clarification, so on our Facebook BPAC page, as long as we're doing like advertising meetings or other stuff like that, that's all good. Yep. We just can't go and say, hey, I love this or whatever. We just need to just present information and just leave it at that.
Correct. Like I can't go to your Facebook and say, you know, what they're saying is like, I can't like a post of yours. If you had shared something regarding an infrastructure project or a bicycle project or pedestrian project, it's probably not in my best interest to go to your page and like that or share it. Like it's not good. So we want to stay away from that.
Thank you, Phil.
Yeah. All right. So we'll wrap that up unless there's any other comments, and we'll head over to our task force. Now, this is real quick. I just wanted to bring this up to everybody. We had the quick task force for the Palm, right? Was it, Jill, for the Palm Belmont thing? So that's done. We have no more task force. The only thing I want to think about is, because I don't know if we're done already with this fiscal year, Jill, if we're still coming up with ideas. Do we need, and I brought this up in the last meeting because I was looking over the minutes. about having a budget task force. Now, do we need a budget task force for the rest of this year, for the next month or so? Do we want to make one now and have it run for 2 months and see if we can get the last bit of money in for May and June? Or do we just say, we're done with this fiscal year. Let's come back to the table in April, and let's put a task force together for the next fiscal year. Because usually you want the projects and everything that we want to fund by September. Is that correct?
Well, I would like it.
Preferably, right?
I would prefer by July, that we have a plan by July to expend the funds for the year. So I think starting a budget task force now for next year is a good idea.
Okay, yeah, let's. So I think so we're done with this fiscal year, over, out, zero. I think that's safe to say, right, Jill?
Well, I have that on the agenda later on to have that discussion, because I have 0 projects, and I'm starting to run out of time.
So the whole thing is do we want to put a budget? Do we want to put a task force together for the next 30 days, basically, to see if we can use the funds for the remainder of the fiscal year, and then next month, do we want to put a task force together for the 2021-2022 fiscal year? What do you guys think?
It would be my suggestion that we still do one, because we've put time and effort into spending money. I know we haven't done it yet. We haven't been successful, but we have put time and effort into there. I know I had asked Susan to take over communicating with CMAC, right? About some possible PSAs that we never finished. So hopefully Susan can give an update on that. But it would be nice if we can use some of the money to do a few PSAs, and then absolutely have one for the following year.
Do we want to put one together now for like 30 days, or do you think we need longer than 30 days? But if we get longer than 30 days, now we're coming up to like the very end, and we're trying to rush money through at the very end.
I think that depends on Susan's update on how far they've gotten. If we haven't gotten very far, then right, that'd be a problem. But if we've made some progress,
what do you think? Go ahead.
I just feel like if she made some progress, then maybe we can take whatever, we can pay CMAC for the work that they've done, and then we can take that and try and do some placements before the end of the year. Or even schedule them now, pay for them now, even if they run later on in the year, but just, expend that funding.
What do you think, Susan?
Kyle is actually calling me tomorrow morning to talk what we're going to go forth and do. And one of the things I needed to know for tomorrow is if all those hawks are actually activated, the 3 hawks that we talked about, because we're going to decide, I talked to him briefly about possibly getting, kids and families, crossing the streets and, to educate about how to do the hawks.
Well, I would say, why don't we do this? Why don't we just do one for the next 30 days? And then next month we'll start the next year one. Does that sound like that could work?
I support that, and had vaccines not started with schools next week, I would be on it. There's just no way I can be on it, but I would support that. I think that we should do that, because I think there's potential still to do some education this year.
Susan, I'm assuming that you would be on that budget task force, because you're already in that for the next 30 days, you're already working on it. Would that be okay for like the next 30 days?
Right, that would be okay.
Okay. Who wants to join Susan for the next 30 days?
So is this that I'm asking CMAC how much it would cost to do a PSA?
Yes, this is basically for the next 30 days, you and the budget task force say, what do we need? And then we shut it down. And the next month we create a new task force for the next fiscal year. So who would like to join Susan? Who can join Susan?
What days of the week, again, would this be meeting?
Well, if you want to be on it, that's something you and Susan would have to work out. Yeah.
I'm going to talk to Kyle tomorrow morning, and then I can let you know what he says.
If you want to, include me on the emails, I can, I can participate that way. because I know I was on the initial call with Tony, so I have a little bit of, background knowledge on that. And I have experience working, with PSAs from my own programs at the county.
Okay, I'll send out
So
an email.
Susan, Matthew, and Melanie, or Matthew, I'm sorry, are you okay with that? Okay, so Susan, Matthew, Melanie, I think that's fine. I don't think we have anybody in the public that is still left or that wants to be a part of that. So we're gonna say those three. Work on it for the next 30 days, and then we have Tony. Tony's raising his hand. Tony, go ahead. I think we got to get Tony. Oh, there's Tony. Tony, go ahead.
Thank you for the unmute button. Yes, I'll be happy to, since I've been involved with that.
Sure. All right, thank you, Tony. And then we'll reconvene and see how that goes, and then we'll create a new one for the new fiscal year, and then we can really dive into all the things for next year. So that was it for at least that one. The other thing that we did talk about, I noticed we talked about in the, I guess this will be, if we're going on to member reports, I just want to do, I know Matthew has one. I'm not sure if everyone else has one. We'll go through the thing. We'll go through through everyone. But as far as what you guys had what we talked about in the agenda meeting is that as much as we love requests for the agenda, we want to make sure they're coming from the members. So if you do have an item that you would like from the public, if you're not on the committee and you would like to add an agenda item, to ask a member of the committee to sponsor that item. It has to come from an actual member of the committee. So that's what we're going to ask members of the public at this time. If you would like something placed on there, come to one of the members and ask to sponsor that agenda item, and that member will submit it under the agenda request item. Before we get to Matthew, anyone else have any member reports? Take it away, Matthew.
Okay, so top of my report, I participated in the City of Fresno's webinar they had on the Audubon Drive meeting, or well, I felt like it was relatively well received. I thought it was kind of interesting to hear that there was a roundabout looked at Lexington and Audubon, and I hope that maybe the city will consider more like traffic calming along Audubon in the future. Another like little bullet point from that. I continue to be like a little perplexed as to why the city of Fresno in the early 2000s decided to ban the use of speed bumps on different roads. That's something I'll have to ask my council member about. For the Audubon Drive survey, we got maybe about 71 responses still. That's good. I hope we can get more than that at some point. Other community engagement. I attended the meeting for the Sean Glenn development project. It's been in the news recently. Lots of community members from Old Fig Garden are kind of worried about what this project is going to do, and I hope to work with the neighbors over time and also try to get to focus on what we can actually use the AHSC funds potentially to mitigate it and to potentially get more people biking and walking. And there's a major gap in the ATP priority network there in the form of Maroa, which neighbors have brought up about like having as like protected bike path there, even though I think Public Works has said like that could be that might not be feasible. But anyway, that's pretty much it, except I want to just quickly address last week or the previous meeting where I think we all kind of like, in my opinion, just sort of like came up a little too quickly in support of the free transit proposal, only because there was a lot of stuff that even I admit, well, I didn't look at as far as like how it would be funded, and it seemed like it had the potential to maybe like be where Councilmember Maxwell might have just been coming here just to get our endorsement and then just kind of checkerboard it through. And I take responsibility because I made the initial motion in favor of that. And what I don't want to, and I feel like we kind of just made ourselves, in a way, we self-fulfilled what I think Gene Richards has said in the past, is that BPAC has become in some ways nothing more than a rubber stamp committee where we just kind of pass stuff or make recommendations and don't necessarily put a lot of time and thought into what we do. And so I hope that in the future we do a lot less of that, and I'll put that on myself to also do the same. Anyway.
Did you want to talk about your letter?
Oh, the letter. Yeah,
that was actually on the agenda.
Yes, I've got that on the agenda, and I'll talk about it when it comes up for discussion, just to keep it all organized. Anyway.
No. It's your time. It's your time.
Okay, fine. All right, fine. I'll bring it up. I'm worried that the Palm Bike Path might not bring as many riders to it if the segment between Dakota and Shaw isn't class 4 like the rest of it and like the city wants at some point. So that's the main meaning behind the letter. It's my first item on the agenda for BPAC in general. I'll just say, I hope I drafted it okay. And so, yeah.
I hope everyone got a chance to see it. I think you're asking for support for me to specifically sign, but for us to actually, you want us to vote on this in support of?
Yes. Well, okay. Yeah, I was going to put like everybody's name on there, but it didn't look right just to have everybody's name there.
No, I understand. And what we usually do with the letter of supports is, I sign it depending on how fast they need it. I don't know how fast you want it. I don't know if you want it tomorrow, but I'll give it back to you, and then you can always send it in.
Okay. All right. So
Melanie has a question.
I guess I have some concerns. I have some obviously experience working with the County Board of Supervisors. I want to say, no, I know. I was on the public hearing that Councilmember Soria and Steve Brandow had, the public comment presentation they had. I was a part of that, and I got to hear a lot of the comments, and that was quite a ways back. And I want to say that Steve Brandow and the County Public Works Department already made their decision. So I guess my question is, there was a time where we can do comments and submit letters of support and things like that. Now, if we're submitting a letter of support now, are they even, number one, accepting them? What are they going to do with it? I guess is my question. What does this do for us? Is this going to change the outcome of the project? Because in my mind, Steve Brandow and Public Works for County already made up their mind, and they're not going to change it. So submitting a letter at this point is just symbolic, and it's late. And then it kind of makes us look bad because we should have submitted it back when the comments were being accepted.
And I think, I'm not sure, but I think at the last meeting they stated that the county had already repainted that area and they did not put in those lanes.
Right,
so
they did.
Already been done.
It's done. It's said and done. So I appreciate your wanting to voice an opinion, but as with any government, issue, there was a time and place to do that, and we missed our chance to do that. Or I take that back. Those of us who participated on that meeting had a chance to make public comment. And some of us may or may not have. I know I didn't. There was a lot of people wanting to make comment at that meeting. So it was a long meeting. I actually had to jump off a little bit early. So again, I not that I'm opposed to it, Matthew, because I would absolutely love to see that be I would have loved county to do a better job on that strip. It's really, in my opinion, and I know this is being recorded, I need to be careful as a county employee. It wasn't a good decision to make to not continue on with the bike lane that the city had done. But it's done, and I don't see the county changing their mind at this point. I don't know if it'll ever come up again. So I don't know what submitting a letter at this point will do.
My general meeting was that the residents in the area were against the Type 4 bike lane.
They were afraid of it would increase traffic in the Old Fig area, that cars were going to go through there. And I don't agree with that. I don't think that that's necessarily true. I was a part, I lived in District 7 near Susan, and when they road dieted to Dakota, our community, our neighborhood did not have increased traffic at all. That was not the case. But, you know, that was a valid concern for those community members, and Steve Brandow and Public Works, County Public Works took that into account, and those opinions, unfortunately, were the ones that they sided with. So, so again, I'm not necessarily opposed to the letter. I feel like it's late and there's nothing at this point that it would do.
Right. I hear you, Melanie. I was somehow under the impression that they were going to restripe what they already done at some point. So that was kind of my point in putting this here. I mean, somehow, I mean, I knew that like Brandow was leaning heavily towards members. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, even then though, I think maybe putting this was definitely largely a symbolic measure anyway. So yeah. Okay.
So that's just the only thing. Again, there was a time and place where maybe BPAC could have submitted something.
Look, Matthew, you still are a member of BPAC. You can always send your own letter if it's not anything that we are, you know, if it doesn't look like there's going to be support for this to go forward, you know, you're still a member. You're still a, you know, appointed member. If it doesn't go through, you can always send it yourself.
Right.
It doesn't have to be on behalf of us.
Right. I get it. No hard feelings at all, guys. Just yeah, I get it.
So
Matt, I have a question.
Go ahead, Gene.
Gene here. Matt, you're stressing the class 4 only. Is that right?
Yes, that is pretty much what I'm stressing.
And can you give a little validation to that, please?
The validation I would give is that class 4 is supposed to be the safer facility for biking, and then in general, just a regular road diet, like Brandow seemed to be leaning towards at one point, because residents were concerned about Public Works, if I recall from the meeting, the county couldn't have as much street parking possibly on the road, and there's also some resident concern also to traffic. In my mind, the Palm Avenue bike path going from north to south, all the way from the river down to downtown, wouldn't get as many riders, mainly because there would be a big segment in the middle where it wasn't as safe, and that therefore you would have a bit more traffic congestion than as you would expect to have.
Right. How about, would you settle for bike lanes?
I thought they didn't strip it for bike lanes. It was just for that.
No, it's just exactly the way it was before. Exactly. So what do you think about bike lanes if they don't go for class 4?
I would say then perhaps we might have to just make do, unfortunately. But considering,
I mean, you can always rewrite this and say, you know, we prefer, but we would settle for, you know, we prefer the class 4, but you know, bike lanes would work just as well if that's something that you can rewrite. And again, if you want to bring it back to us next month, or you're more than welcome to set it yourself on your own behalf as well. So, or get other sponsors from BPAC as well. It doesn't have to be approved through here.
I'll say this, just it wouldn't necessarily make sense, because it might already be considered. It's already considered late. A month later would probably just still be later. I might just send it myself.
Sure. You're more than put your title. If anybody else, any other members want to join you, they're more than welcome to as well.
I
Now,
do
a couple
hope
of points.
I hope it changes his mind. I just don't think it will. I'm sorry.
Right. I know, but
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Gene. Oh, sorry.
Matt, a couple of points. I think it's absolutely fine for BPAC to make its wishes known, and timing's not really important. It's a fait accompli at this moment. It's not going to happen right away, but it doesn't hurt to go on the record and say, we think you should have put these at some point. You should put in some facilities for cyclists. We have the support of John Shelton, the people at the river. People want to go to the river, blah, 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 blah. It's perfectly okay for BPAC to come out and support at any time. And what might be necessary is a request a public presentation to the Board of Supervisors to see which way they're going. You know, write your letter. I'd sign on. If BPAC is too sheepish to join in here, it's ridiculous, but I'd sign on for sure. We're just stating our opinion. Of course, we want better bicycling facilities and request a public presentation time.
All right.
Yeah, and I suggest you just rewrite it and take out the class 4 and put in like Gene said, we want some type of bicycle facilities, and that way you can sign off on it, Gene can sign off on it, whoever else, and you don't have to come back next month to do that.
Gene does have a good point though, because technically the engineers at the last meeting, from what I remember hearing, was that they were gonna like come back, make some assessments as far as to like traffic impacts on Ashland and Palm, because residents were concerned because that intersection gets backed up quite a bit, and I've seen that happen. So technically the decision with regards to like what they're going to do hasn't necessarily been made public, so it would be fair to ask for a public hearing. I think I'm not going to ask, well, I'll bring this back next time.
If you want to wait a month, that's fine. Yeah, that's okay. You can rewrite the letter. That's just fine. Anyone else have go ahead, Melanie.
I'm just going to say what I can do as a county employee, because I know some people in public works, is let me reach out to them just, one-on-one and ask them what their thoughts are on how much this letter would weigh with them, or what their plans are, or if, this is it, or if they're still thinking about it, just to kind of, test the waters just a little bit. I hate to set you up for failure. I would rather us have some kind of insider view so we can kind of proceed based on that information. So let me reach out again as a county employee to County Public Works and see if they can give me any insight on what's going on over there.
Thanks, Melanie. But I mean, at this point, I mean, it doesn't matter to me whether or not like the weight of the letter would change their mind necessarily. It's just, it's just
the letter itself. Yeah.
It lets BPAC speak its mind.
Yeah, go on record. That's all.
Yeah, if you feel strongly about it, I think you should go on record.
All right. So would this require a vote right now, just to simply move on?
If you want, no, you don't have to. I mean, if you want the vote, that's fine. If you want the vote as the letter's written, that's up to you. If you want to take a vote, if you want to rewrite the letter and come back next month, that's up to you as well.
I'll rewrite it.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Oh, Tony, we have one public comment. And there's Tony. Go ahead.
There you go. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, I kind of recall what Matthew was saying, that they were going to do some traffic studies or some sort. So I didn't, hear that they had made a decision. So I don't know whether any of the staff have any knowledge or insights into the process for that, or I understood they were going to stripe it as a class 2, which would be fine for the time being. But do we really know what's going on in the county side? So that's my question to Jill. Perhaps she can.
I do not know what's going on the county side. I thought they were going to stripe a class 2. And then during the Palm public meeting, I was told that they had already done their slurry and restriping or repaving, whatever they were doing, and they did not put in the class 2. So I heard that when everybody else heard it. I wasn't aware of that.
I think Melanie should go to her source and find out what's going on there. All right, let's move on. Do we even have anybody from the PD here?
Yeah, he's an attendee. It looks like he's the phone number.
Oh, is that the phone number? Okay,
yeah,
Officer
Gavin,
Miller.
can you let the phone number in? Thank you. Officer Bella, you're up.
You're on.
And I don't know how you unmute though.
I think it was *6 to unmute or *9 to unmute.
Okay.
There we go.
I think I'm unmuted now.
Yeah, you are.
Okay, great. Hello, everyone. Going to go over some of our statistics here for 2021. I did a 6-month report up to January 31st of 2021. We had a total of 74 pedestrian involved collisions and 31 bicycle collisions. For the month of January, last month, we had a total of 8 pedestrian collisions and 2 bicycle collisions. Fatalities, up to this point, since January 1st, we've had 2 pedestrians. The first one was on January 19th at 8:43 p.m. That was the Shaw Avenue east of Brawley. It's a 58-year-old male subject in a wheelchair who just rolled out into the roadway from the curb line outside of a crosswalk in the dark area. He was struck by a passing vehicle's mirror. So the pedestrian was found at fault in that one. The second pedestrian fatality occurred January 21st, a few days later at 6:30 p.m. Again, both of these during time of darkness. Cedar Avenue, just north of Floridora. Similar case where pedestrian just stepped out into the roadway in front of an oncoming stepped out eastbound. At night between 2 streetlights again, outside of a crosswalk, a 53-year-old male wearing dark clothing. And this turned out to be a hit and run. The driver of the vehicle, and this is still under both of these, of course, are still under investigation, and toxicology is pending on both pedestrians. We had a bicycle fatality on the 10th of this month, and that occurred on Jensen Avenue near Martin Luther King. Again at night at 5:44 during darkness. 5:44. Sorry, this one was at 5:44 a.m. It was dark. The bicycle was eastbound on Jensen Avenue, where there's a slight curve in the roadway, or they called it a slight dog leg in the road. A vehicle at a high rate of speed rear-ended the cyclist. It appears they may have been unable to negotiate that curve in the road, especially at the speed they were traveling at. The vehicle, of course, is found at fault in this one, rear-ending the cyclist. The cyclist did not have any lights on the bicycle. And again, that one is also pending toxicology on the cyclist. And we're at 3 so far for 2021 regarding pedestrians and cyclists at this time. Any questions from anyone?
I have a question with regards to, I think maybe there was it was a prior fatality that happened on, I believe it was First Avenue headed towards McKinley. Okay, no. It was near the future site of the Midtown Trail. A bike came out of an alleyway, the way it read in the B or on ABC 30, and then ended up in the road and then got hit by a car and thrown. Yet some people online were asking questions because the description didn't seem to make sense, because I don't know. Anyway, can you get enough information from that?
It's going to be hard for me to, I can look at I have a log I have access to right now, but without speaking with the detectives that handled the investigation, it's going to be tough to get you. I don't know what information you're looking for. The last bicycle, I'm looking at the log right now, the last bicycle fatality prior to the one I talked about was on November 13th, and it was at North and Golden State. Prior to that, let's see.
I have the cross streets now, if that helps. Cedar and McKinley, it was near.
I have one at Valentine and Norwich. Let me make sure I'm on the right one here.
Huh.
I have a Valentine in Norwich. There's another one at Shields and Kalish, Whitesbridge and Hughes, Backer and Fillmore.
That's weird because.
And Bullard east of Fresno. That's it for all of 2020.
Huh. Weird. Okay, so it looks like the Cedar one might not have been a fatality. Okay, that's odd. I thought the guy died.
Well, I could look into it more if you want to send me an email. But those are the ones I have listed on. And this, again, I'm going off of our crew detectives log, so they know all the fatalities that have occurred. It could be that the streets were just listed wherever you received your information from the media. It could be that the streets were just listed wrong.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I definitely recall looking at it with people on Twitter and trying to figure out exactly what happened, because I looked at the ABC 30 footage and it looked like it was definitely along Cedar Avenue headed towards McKinley. I was able to match houses and stuff like that. So we can correspond online afterward, just for the sake of time, though, in case anyone else has any other questions.
If you have any other information regarding their, if it's a male, their age, male, female, I have some information like that. But as far as Cedar Avenue and McKinley, I don't see that on the log. So, but we can definitely get together later if you like, and I can talk to the detectives about the case.
Will do.
Thank you, Officer. Any questions for Officer Belli?
Well, yeah, Gene here. Quick question. Does it really take that long to get a toxicology or whatever you call it screen on a victim or perpetrator in a collision?
Yes, it takes quite some time. I can tell you that with the last cyclist, the one I just spoke of, that there is evidence that led detectives to believe that there is going to be possibly some drug involvement in that.
Okay. And do you want to, maybe I just tell BPAC that you and I met with your Sergeant Van Wyhe, what was that, a couple of weeks ago. Do you want to review that, or do you want me to say something?
Sure. Whatever you'd like to bring up about it.
Okay. Well, I went in trying to persuade him to have the traffic enforcement people look a little more carefully at the violations of the 3-foot law and how to say politely. He was very, very diplomatic and polite, but as he said, the FPD tries to be, how do you say it? Statistics led. And these didn't seem to be the predominance of the collisions, was infractions on the 3-foot law. So he sort of put me off a little bit.
Yeah, and we did provide you with what our primary collision factor was regarding cyclists, and it wasn't that. But it's not that we're not going to enforce anything like that or educate the public on it. I actually went over. You asked me to cover all that information, and I did so in the last briefing, actually, not long ago after we met, and covered the 3-foot rule and a lot about just educating the officers on bicycles and their right to take a lane and to occupy the road. And because you had mentioned that there was an incident where an officer didn't know the rule on that, spoken to a cyclist. So I made a point to bring that up in briefing in front of everyone and cover those points that you provided to me. Which I think went well, and it's good to cover that on occasion and remind them of those rules of the road. Of course, they're dealing with high speeds and collisions all day long. So to remind them of those type of things that they don't deal with all the time is always good. So I'm going to try to do that.
Okay, great. Thanks for doing that. And if anyone else on the committee would like to see my notes, of that meeting, I'd be happy to forward them to them. That's all.
Okay.
Feel free, Gene, just to send them out. That's fine. Anyone else have any comments for Officer? I think Tony has a comment. Real quick, Tony.
Okay, yes, the incident on at Cedar, it was north of McKinley near Weldon. It was in the Fresno B on, let's see, February 8th, I believe. It was on the Monday afternoon, East Central Fresno, 2:30 p.m. 55-year-old cyclist crossing Cedar when he rode into the pathway of a gray Toyota Camry traveling south. So is that the one we're referring to?
Are you referring to 2020 or 2021?
2021, yeah.
Okay, let me go to that.
Monday.
Well, that's the only cyclist that I spoke with detectives today, and that was the cyclist that I spoke of on Jensen is the only one. Are you sure that it was a fatal?
Yes, it says bicyclist was killed. 55-year-old cyclist was identified as Aaron Rivera of Fresno, taken to hospital, severe head injuries, later pronounced dead. 5 occupants in the Camry were uninjured and cooperating with police. So neither drugs nor alcohol was a factor. So.
Was it in a county island? Maybe that's why it doesn't have.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of, because they do not have that listed on their log, and they did not bring that up to me. So
that may be. It says CHP spokesman. That may be.
Oh yeah, that's a county. Then we won't. That's probably a county island. We won't handle that.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Oh, that brings up one last question I have. Pretty much is. Essentially, okay, so stuff that happens within the city of Fresno limits, but are on the county islands, fatalities like that, they don't get counted?
Yeah, they get counted on the county SWITR's report, and then they'll get counted, absolutely. But that counts as a county, though, fatality, not, we separate the city and the county.
Yeah, we would have to have the sheriff's office come in, or CHP, and this. I think unfortunately fortunately we do have Fresno PD here. Unfortunately, we're not able to have everybody else come in yet.
Right. I don't know.
If a fatality was to occur on the freeway, we would not handle that. We would not count that because it's a state route.
All right. That is a weird technicality. Okay. If anyone else doesn't have any other questions, I'm okay with moving on, and Tony's got his hand up again. Actually,
we're gonna move on because we still got a lot.
I have one quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Officer, are there any more special enforcement periods planned for this year?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, we do have some more pedestrian and bicycle enforcement operations that we're going to do. I believe, going off the top of my head, we have around 4 more operations to the end of this grant year, which ends in September. And then we have several traffic safety enforcement operations that are also grant funded that we're going to utilize. There's some distracted driving we're going to do for Distracted Driving Month. And I believe there's one motorcycle safety enforcement operations we're going to also perform, and that's usually done in May.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Officer Belli, for all the information. Appreciate it. Always appreciate you coming out here.
You're welcome.
So the rest of the meeting is basically staff. And who wants to go and who wants to who wants to finish this off here?
I can go real quick. Mine are pretty quick
Okay. Go ahead,
items. The Form 700 RDA submission, and just a reminder that that's due April 1st. You should have gotten the email If you haven't, let me know. And
Do you have a list of people who've done it already and who haven't?
I can look it up and see. Yeah,
Okay. I don't remember if I did, but I probably didn't.
I can do that.
All right, thanks.
So that's just a reminder for that. We do have the ATP update going to council on March 4th. It's going to planning commission, I think the night before on March 3rd. And if you'll remember, that is just to change the classification of a couple or a few class 2s to class 4s, segments like Belmont, R Street, Maple, First, some of them that we've already kind of got going in the process for design, or we have funding for them. ATP coordinator update. I wanted to let you know that we did put in for a position in this next year's budget.
Thank you.
It's still like way preliminary. But it has been submitted. So we will see how that goes as it works its way through the process. And then I also wanted to remind you that if we want to keep doing the semi-annual report, I think I put annual report, but the semi-annual report to council, it's time to do it again. We did it in.
We presented in November, so we can technically wait till like May or June, right?
Well, we've got to start working on it because it takes about 8 weeks to get it processed through the council, through the city attorney's office. So
we can set up that task force next month as well.
Yeah. So
thank you.
I think that was all of them. The safety education fund's another reminder that if we're going to spend those, we have to have a plan here for those soon.
And that's the task force we just created for the next 30 days.
Yep.
As well. So that's great. The ATP coordinator has been submitted. If you guys are at all motivated, if we're all motivated and passionate about it, we will be emailing our members, our council members. We will be emailing the mayor. I think that's something that we should do, Melanie, since we're the mayoral appointee, draft up a letter, send him an email.
I still need to send him an email about the pedestrian stings too.
Okay, whatever. Well, let's do it. She's already submitted. Let's make it happen. So I encourage everyone to send an email to their member to get that position approved. Go ahead.
The work plan's also on there. So
I saw that, and I was so I know if anyone wants to. I think Matthew, have you seen the work plan before? Have you seen a work plan before?
Yeah, I've seen it from previous meetings.
Yeah. So if you want to know anything more about it, you can look through it. You can always request it as to when we do our agenda meeting. You can send in, hey, I want to know more about this project. That way, staff is prepared to talk more about that project later on. Safety education funds. There's that. We already did that one. And
I have a question for Jill.
You did semi-annual. Go ahead, Jim.
Jill, you're going to send us what exactly Public Works is requesting as far as an ATP coordinator position? Are you?
I hadn't planned on it. I don't know. I have to check to see if I can. At this point, it's not public. I don't think that it's still just in Public Works. So it hasn't gone farther than us working on it and preparing the submission yet. So I don't know what the I don't know how that works. If we're able to send that out yet. Andy, do you know? I mean, are we able to send out info on a preliminary budget type of thing yet?
I think in this case we could. I mean, typically we don't release information before the city council is aware of things, but they know about this. So I don't know what are they asking to release, like the job description?
Yeah, I was gonna say, because it's not the job description. You were just asking for the position, correct? The money for the position. The job description comes if they approve it and they have to search for someone.
Yeah, we don't have the job description done yet, but we are putting in a request, just a form that we fill out for new positions. We're asking for a lot of new positions, but I think that maybe that position might actually get approved.
Wonderful.
Well, my question is more general. We've been asking for this for a really long time, and we put together a proposal, a couple of years ago. And the main component of that was that this position is not, I stress, not an engineering position. Has that been dealt with?
It is not an engineering position. That's not how I wrote it up.
Okay, thank you for that. And then last thing, you said the ATP was having an update. Can you send us what Public Works is requesting and allow us to make recommendations for the update?
I did put it in an agenda a few meetings ago. That time kind of has passed. It's already in process, and it will be posted to the agendas probably Friday, I think, for Planning Commission and for PC. But I can send you what that is. But I think as far as this group, we've already had that. I believe we already had that discussion a few meetings ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe we did go over that a couple meetings ago.
Anything else, Jill? Before we move to Scott real quick.
That was mine. I jumbled them all together. So if there's questions.
Real briefly. Okay. So you're saying so I was under the impression the ATB update was going to be something much larger and more comprehensive.
This is call this a cleanup. I should call it a cleanup. So to kind of fix some of the colors on the map. No, this is not an overhaul of the ATP. It's just a call to cleanup.
Okay. All right. I look forward to the bigger one whenever that happens.
We are looking for funding for that right now to do the more comprehensive update, but that's still probably a couple years out by the time we get funding and get everything up and going.
I'll definitely be sure to hang on to the CalBike report for recommendations when that time does eventually come. Okay, thanks, Jill.
Thank you, Matt. Scott, you want to finish up on yours real quick?
Yeah, 2 weeks ago we had our community meeting, our first community meeting for the Pullman Belmont Class 4 project. I had pretty good attendance. I was impressed. I think we had almost 40 people, including staff. We went over some of the design features of the project, the limits of the project, and the potential impacts to the community and the amenities it would provide cyclists in the area. And we've made the plans available for download so people can look at the actual route in its entirety instead of just the 10 or 12 excerpts we chose to focus on in the meeting. And there is an email address that people can submit questions, comments, concerns to. To date, I've only received one email regarding this project at that address. So we have a couple weeks left where there's still some opportunity to, potentially look at, changes or address comments. So if anybody on this call would like to do that, please do so quickly.
Do you know that link that we had on the agenda? It didn't work.
I just tried it. It worked for me.
Oh, well, it didn't work for me.
If you try typing it in instead of clicking on it.
Or copy and paste it maybe.
or copy and paste it.
I'll see what I could. Yeah, I'll try to do that. I just couldn't. I clicked on it and I was like,
yeah, I tried it right before the meeting just to double check to make sure the link was active in the agenda.
Yeah, I had a problem with it too, but the reason was because it's a download. So it doesn't bring anything up. It's just a download. And then I realized it was already on my computer. So.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And question that I posed to Jill earlier in the day, and I thought you would take up, is there were a bunch of public questions that didn't get addressed at that meeting. They were good ones. I don't remember them. I remember mine, but I don't remember the other ones. But it would be good to hear the responses to those questions and concerns that were brought up.
I will punt that to Gavin. Do you know if there's any record of what was typed in past meetings.
In
I was
past
in-
meetings.
The Palm and Belmont meeting we had a couple weeks ago on a Wednesday night, Councilmember Soria's office.
If there would have been any Q&A, I would have a record of that, yes.
When you have a couple of minutes later on, Gavin, could you look into that, please, and see if there's anything? Can you just shoot me a text file, email it to me?
Yeah, no problem.
I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, my point was, I mean, we know that cyclists have the right of way, especially in those conflict zones with buses or driveways or any other entrance onto the bike cycle track. Is there any way to, how to say, not educating the bus drivers because they probably know, but some sort of something or another besides the green paint to let cyclists know that be careful, but they have the right of way, or vice versa. They have the right of way, but be careful.
If there's published signage or FHWA approved stencils or something, we can look into it, but nothing other than that. I mean, we're proposing everything that NACTO recommends.
And that's mainly you're relying on the green paint to give everyone a heads up.
Green paint and delineators, the flexible bollards, and in some cases signage, roadside signage.
And the signage says?
Various things, yield here to cyclists, stop at red light. I mean, if you look at the plans, it's called out. If it's, you can go back and look at the presentation too.
Yeah, no, I did. I heard it all and I looked at the plans. I'm not an engineer, so.
We are looking, Gene, we are looking at some outreach. We don't know what that's going to look like yet. It's might not be to the bus drivers. It might not be to the cyclists, but it might be overall outreach on how do you navigate through these things, whether you're riding your bike, whether you're driving your car, whether you're putting your garbage down at the curb. So we haven't just figured that out yet, but we are working towards some sort of public outreach, PSA, something.
All right, that's good. Well, this is, I don't know, I see it as super important because it's such a major corridor, long cycle track. And we don't want people to get creamed out there and create a lot of bad publicity. So trying to think about the best way to deal with that.
Well, thank you guys for your staff reports. Really appreciate it. I think we could all use a motion to adjourn. Susan?
Quick question.
Oh, go ahead, Susan.
Can I access this afterwards, like for when I'm doing my minutes? If I need to review something?
Do we record these, Gavin?
It's on the City of Fresno's YouTube channel. You'll be able to see it right there at the City of Fresno's YouTube channel anytime.
City of Fresno YouTube?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
You're always on YouTube, Susan. So
oh my God.
Susan's a YouTuber, right?
No.
I'll just make a quick note, Susan. Then it's in the top left. There should be like a live on YouTube.
Oh, I see it there.
Yeah, you can click that and get the link right now if you want.
Oh, okay. I'll probably call you.
All right, Susan.
And I just want to remind everyone, if you're 65 or older, get your vaccine. If you're involved with education, you can get your vaccine beginning Monday.
I gotta let my wife know. She's a public educator. All right. Good job.
Yes.
Where?
Go to our website. Go to our website. We have links there, or work with is she in Fresno Unified?
She's at Fresno State.
Oh, Fresno State. Go to our website. There's about 3 different sites that you can register at. One of them being the Big Fresno Fair, one of them being SPOC, the Sierra Pacific Orthopedic Center up in North Fresno, and one being Reedley. There's a site out in Reedley too. I sent my parents to Reedley, so.
Good. All right, I'll go on there. But that's good to know because she needs to get it done.
Guys, Tony's hand is raised.
Real quick, Tony, you're standing between us and going home.
Dinner.
Yeah, I was just going to comment that this new format is probably going to take a little getting used to, but I'd like to make a suggestion that perhaps the chair appoint the vice chair to address questions in chat and to keep an eye on the hands raised to help the chair, or it could appoint somebody else to help moderate the meeting, because I think there have been a lot of comments and questions that should probably be addressed. And I think to make this more, user-friendly for the public to, kind of interact with. I know, I realize this is the first time, and I realize it's kind of, as a former chair, I realize it's hard to deal with all of this stuff there, but.
So Tony, actually, we're going to turn the Q&A off for the next meetings. That shouldn't be on. That's my bad right now. But that's for this type of meeting. That's not even supposed to be.
Yeah, because we can't take like just comments. We're not, and we have to take actual discussion. We can't take like just comments in the chat.
Yeah.
That's what I thought that. I didn't know. I mean, I don't know what's at the bottom here. I just I don't know.
That's my
fault.
fault.
It's okay. It's fine.
Phil, this is Gavin. I apologize for that. Jill told me after we started this that she would prefer that we do this like a council meeting.
Yeah.
And I know that council meetings don't just let random people shout out questions every 30 seconds when they think of it. So moving forward, I will make sure that the Q&A in the chat is disabled to the
because I believe if that happens, that has to be part of the record. And that's just too much for Susan to try to go through. So okay, so with that, any other questions, comments? It's time to move for motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Gavin.
My pleasure. Sorry about the confusion, but since it's the first one, it'll get better, I promise.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for staying on. And I'll just say, it's meetings like this that made me ask real briefly at the beginning of the year whether or not anyone thought it was okay for us to do bi-monthly meetings, but I understand that doesn't work with everyone's schedule already. So, but anyway, you see my point.
Yeah, I do.
I motion to adjourn.
Melanie motions, second.
Second.
Great. Anyone opposed? All right.